Lieutenant General Tariq Wasim Ghazi, participants, session chairs, Chairperson Dr. Masuma Hassan of the Institute, members who have extended their collaboration, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. We are about to begin our inaugural session. Uh, there are certain things we would like you to please follow. Just switch off your mobile phones or keep them on a silent mode. I request Chairperson of Pakistan Institute of International Affairs, Dr. Masuma Hassan, to preside over the session. Okay. I request the Honorable Lieutenant General Tariq Wasim Ghazi to please come on the stage for his inaugural address.
Lieutenant General Tariq Wasim Ghazi, distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the members of the Pakistan Institute of International Affairs, I welcome you to this seminar and webinar on emerging geostrategic contestation in Asia Pacific, challenges and opportunities for Pakistan. Because we have a very large audience, especially through the webinar, at the outset, I would like to say a few words about our institute. Many of you would know that this is the oldest think tank in Pakistan. It was conceptualized in 1947 and incorporated in 1948. It was inaugurated by Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan, who was always partial to the institute. The purpose of the institute was to act as a bridge between the public and policymakers on global issues and foreign policy issues. Towards this purpose, in the last 73 years, apart from our research output, we have provided a platform for informed debate and held hundreds, if not thousands, of conferences, seminars, symposiums, lectures, and youth conclaves. And our members have been addressed by outstanding statesmen, jurists, and scholars from across the whole world. This seminar is part of our effort to create an understanding of the challenging power politics in the Asia Pacific region. This region, which is populated by billions of people, has some of the most stable economies in the world. It is crisscrossed and surrounded by trade and maritime routes. It has long been of critical importance to the United States, which is offset now by the dominant economy and military power of China, a scene of the rival interests of these two giants, China and the United States. In our discussion today, we will focus on how Pakistan can promote its interests, the challenges it faces, and the opportunities available for Pakistan in the emerging dynamics of the region. I am extremely grateful to you, Lieutenant General Tariq Wasim Ghazi Saab, for agreeing to inaugurate this seminar. General Saab was our Defense Secretary. In his distinguished career in the Pakistan Army, he has held high command and policy making positions, both at home and at the international level. He has also headed the Staff College at Quetta and the National Defense College at Islamabad, which is now the National Defense University. He has held several important administrative positions, such as being chairman of the Civil Aviation Authority and Forty Foundation. In his person, therefore, he combines multidimensional experience. From the platform of our institute, we have always benefited from his insight, his erudition, his wisdom on issues of international importance. It is with the greatest pleasure, therefore, that I request him to inaugurate this seminar. General Sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dr. Masuma Hassan, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very great pleasure and an honor for me to be here to inaugurate this webinar. And I'm particularly grateful for the kind words that you have. And it is always a pleasure to participate in these events that are held at this institute. All of them very intellectual, very thought-provoking, and dealing with current events. When Dr. Saiba called me and asked me to inaugurate this session, and I, after understanding that she was not going to take a no for an answer, agreed to it. My wife was sitting there and she said, Mia, kahan ja rahe hain aap? Corona hua hua hai. So I said, it's a webinar and, Dr. Saba has called me, so I have to be there. So then the next thing she asked me was, ke topic kya hai? So I rattled out emerging geostrategic contestation in Asia Pacific, challenges, opportunities in Pakistan, all in one breath. So then she looked at me, gave me a very long and hard look. वो देखती रही मुझे. उसके बाद उन्होंने मुझे कहा कि अपना आपसे संभाला नहीं जाता, दूसरों की आपको बहुत फिक्र पड़ गई. अब इसका जवाब मेरे पास मौजूद था, but having been married for 44 years, I know that when a wife gives an opinion, it's best to keep quiet about it. So then I started thinking that there is some merit in what she said. We're talking of the Asia Pacific. And Pakistan is traditionally always punched above its weight. You look at our own history, we have always been involved in somebody else's game, somebody else's war, and somebody else's interests. And we've been considering ourselves key players in those events. Uh, you look at ourselves, the pre-colonial, we were fighting the Russian Empire, and we were fighting the Ottoman Empire, and we were fighting for the British, and we were fighting for somebody or the other. We were never fighting for ourselves. Became independent, and we were part of the Baghdad Pact. Sometimes we were looking at CENTO, another time we were looking at CIETO, and then we were looking at ourselves being placed in the middle of the Gulf Wars in the Middle East, in the Palestine issue, becoming an active partner in Bosnia, um, in the global war on terrorism, proliferating nuclear weapons, um, part and parcel of the Soviet-US struggle, part and parcel of the Soviet-US Taliban struggle, part and parcel also now of the US-China struggle. So I begin by saying that as far as we are concerned, सारे जहां का दर्द हमारे जिगर में है. While Kashmir burns next door to us, and we are unable to do anything about it. So what's the way? One way is, which is what has been suggested, that become an island, look after yourself and forget about the rest of the world. Or else become an immersive state, be a part of what the global discourse is, be a very relevant, be a very important partner within it. And as far as we are concerned, I think we must realize that there are some things that we cannot ignore. And perhaps Asia Pacific is one such thing. What we need to understand is first the environment within which these changes are taking place. We must understand that first there is a reversion that's taking place. We are reverting from unipolar polarity. There are fading powers, and there are realignments, and there are shifting power centers along with new dimensions of power and the emergence of other powers as a result. What all of this commotion and this chaos and this upheaval does is that it creates stress on the global system. And this stress is especially meaningful and acute for the powers that are actually fading or failing. And within those, the United States is one unipolar superpower that finds itself on the recession, receding powers. Uh, because the US hegemony is no longer under challenge, it is actually eroding. And as this erosion takes place, there is a reaction for you to defend against that erosion. And what that creates is it creates this reaction that is typical of the mindset that pervades your strategic thinking. And in the case of the United States, the power that is receding and which is actually leading to this chaos, there are two things that define it. Firstly, is the arrogance and the hubris that has fixated them on simplifications, which are offered as justifications and then are exaggerated by creating bogies and demons. You know, in the past, you've had communists as demons, and you've had dominoes, the fear of dominoes in Southeast Asia and in the Balkans. You've had the Latin American dangerous revolutionaries. You had Nasserism. You had the myth of the Iraqi WMDs, the creation of a monster like OBL or Daesh and Uyghurs, and in the present day, China, that bogey. This is the reaction to the loss of its power. What the US can do is, but which it will not, is to show some humility and come to terms with the loss of this power and accept the rise of China by finding ways to transition peacefully. Will this happen? I do not think so. Because the scorpion is an insect that is an insect of habit and it must bite. And this is evidenced in the US strategic framework for the Indo Pacific. And for those of you who do not know this, less than a month back, this US strategic framework, which was crafted by the National Security Council, has been recently redacted and partly declassified. And this document, and I will just read some aspects because it's relevant for you. What are the US interests going forward? This document, and I'm quoting you from the document itself, there's nothing that I've made myself. What are the US interests? Maintain US strategic primacy in the Indo Pacific region, prevent China from establishing spheres of influence, advance American influence, preserve peace through strength, preserve US economic, diplomatic, and military access, and build up strong US alliances which will be key to the advancing of vital interests. Now, these are predicated on specific assumptions and beliefs. And what are those fundamental beliefs? Number one, that China will circumvent international rules and engagements. Secondly, that it will dissolve the US alliances and partnerships in the region, that it will exploit vacuums. These three are the governing motivations for the US to combat world power in the coming decades. The second belief is that a strong India would act as a counterbalance to China, and it must be propped up as the preferred partner. And the third belief is that Russia will remain a marginal power in the Indo Pacific region. Therefore, all of this should lead to some kind of an end state that they are visualizing for themselves. And these end states become methods and tools and things with which they can beat the rest of us. They can tout sovereignty, as they say. Secondly, freedom of navigation and overflight. Thirdly, standards of trade and investment. Fourthly, respect for individual rights and rule of law. And fifthly, transparency in military activities. These are the five areas in which they will beat you, they will question you, they will ask for your compliance, and they will ask for the others to submit. And the methods which they have specified in this document includes resist, including through covert and coercive influences. These are the wordings that have been placed in that document. Covert and coercive influence. And then the next 7 pages of that document go into list the lines of effort, the objectives, and the exact actions that are laid out for this. And in this entire process, and in this entire document, which is the redacted version or the declassified version is about 10, 12 pages, there is not one single mention of Pakistan, not one word. Now, one other thing that I think I need to bring to your notice is something that has probably slipped under the radar. One, because it was recent, and second, because of the manner in which it was released. The CENTCOM, which is the combatant command the US uses in the region in which we live, CENTCOM has had its 21st member, the newest member country. That country was included in CENTCOM's area of responsibility only 3 days before Trump departed the White House. And this brings that particular country with its intelligence, its surveillance, its special operations, its covert, and its strategic reach into Pakistan's area of responsibility as part of the CENTCOM group. Are there any guesses with regard to who this 21st country is? It's Israel. And therefore, Israel, which has been a part of the European command for all this while, has suddenly, at a time when the Indo Pacific strategy is being prepared, where India is being offered as a preferred partner, here is Israel that's brought in as part and parcel of CENTCOM with all its capabilities to be able to bridge the gap between these two commands. Whether I'm reading into it a little too much needs to be studied. The implications have to be understood. But we must understand that the nexus that exists between Israel and India, the nexus that exists with India and the Indo Pacific, and the nexus that exists with CENTCOM and Israel, and the US and Israel interests do not bode well for Pakistan. Therefore, the question I leave for you today are who and what will drive the Asia Pacific future? What purpose and in what ways What is within all of this of relevance to us and how it will impact us in Pakistan? And from those impacts, how do we prepare ourselves? How do we react to the changing situations? You have throughout this day a very eminent panel that will address these and I'm sure many other issues. And we will get this in depth analysis from them, if not some solutions. And therefore, there will be enough food for your thought for you by the end of this day. For me personally, for Pakistan, the implications stem from the existence of China and the existence of India. Firstly, it's our alignment, our strategic partnership, and our proximity and dependence on China that puts us in the shop window as far as the Indo Pacific strategy is concerned. And secondly, India, its enlarged role, its popping up as the net security provider and a counterbalance to China creates not only an incentive, a motivation, and an emboldenment of India vis-a-vis Pakistan that we perhaps have never seen in our history before. Our alignment with China threatens a backlash on us, whereas the Indian partnership exposes us to exploitation and blackmail. And these are the two implications that I think we need to consider. As far as the impacts are concerned, what is desired from Pakistan? I think it would be most desirable if Pakistan was a pliant state, if Pakistan was a state that was paralyzed into inaction. It was someone who could look everywhere and look nowhere. It had no direction to go. And when confronted with some decision, it would sit completely numb from inaction. That is what the world or the Americans or the Asia Pacific strategy would like to see. Pakistan as an immobile, paralyzed partner to China and China's rise, a non committed state. There is going to be, in terms of impacts, a regional hegemon in our neighborhood who is likely to be of greater power than we have seen, both in technological terms and military terms. We are also likely to see a greater penetration of our strategic systems, of our intelligence network, open to more subversion, the control of our people through social power, and economic disenfranchisement. I think it is likely to incentivize punitive, coercive, and covert activities against us. There is likely also to be a dilution of China related strategic gains and opportunities, a disruption of our internal cohesion, and pressures on our financial, economic, trade, human right, and international law regimes, etc. What we will work towards is perhaps an insistence on conflict management rather than conflict resolution. And finally, just to leave it on what I think could be the answers, I think it is time for us in Pakistan to stop sitting on the fence. I think it's time for us to clearly encompass China's shared destiny paradigm, unequivocally, without any excuses and apologies. We must realize that US, if at all it had ever been, is no longer a benign or a friendly power to us. It is high time we part ways with it and we reject its seduction of the Pakistani strategic and civil mindset completely. It's not that we should confront it to do so. I think we should learn to humor everyone, but we should know where our priority is, and we should finally put this nuanced euphoria that is created in our country with one, two words that are positively issued out of the State Department in the US. I think additionally, we need to put our own house in order. We need to maintain a very comprehensive deterrence because the days ahead are difficult, and we must enlarge the benefits of the China Asian century for our people. And lastly, I think it is about time we create and participate in regional partnerships within our neighborhood, with Iran, with Afghanistan, with Central Asia, Turkey, and Malaysia. The Middle East and the kingdoms in the Middle East are not for us. They are for sale to the fading power. And as long as they are propped up in power, those monarchs and kings in the Middle East will do their bidding and not look at our interests. So I thank you very much. These for the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
रखते हैं. This was a feast actually. तायराना नज़र रखते हैं, गहरी नज़र रखते हैं. And I will long remember what you have said. I'm sure the participants here will also remember it, that we should just stop sitting on the fence. And we should stop getting, what was the word you used? Seduced. We should stop getting seduced. We should build new partnerships in the region. We should shed the commitments and partnerships which have, as you said, led us nowhere. I can't thank you enough, not only that you, in these terrible times which we are going through, the COVID-19 pandemic, that you came in person. Thank you so much for inaugurating this seminar, for the thoughts you have left us with, and the direction which you have pointed out. The research staff of the Institute will start working on those issues. And as we work on those issues, if from time to time we need your help, guidance, we will approach you. And I do hope that you will keep patronizing this institute, because your association with it means a great deal for all of us who work here. Ladies and gentlemen, there will now be a short break. Tea will be served on the ground floor, and we will assemble after 15 or 20 minutes at 11 o'clock. It is my request that you should all stay, because we have a very good panel of speakers, and please come back after 15 or 20 minutes. Thank you, General Saab.
Ma'am, there is a request. All worthy speakers, chief guest, members of the council, and those who have extended their collaboration with us, they should come here for a photograph. We will be obliged. Thank you.